All right, welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we connect entrepreneurs or professionals that can help you go all in on your business. We talk to people that walk the walk and talk the talk, experience all the things that we experience as small business owners, in hopes that we can package up some of those experiences and skills and teach them to you guys, make it a little bit easier for you to go about your day to day life in your business, learn from some of the things that we have been through so that maybe you don't have to learn from those same experiences or potential failures. Business is hard, and we've been very gracious to have a catalog of people on the podcast, people from in our network, people from outside of our network that have tuned in to give you guys some perspective and just tell you a little bit of their story. So thank you for coming. I wanted to say that first. You know, anybody that sets the time apart and gives the effort of telling that story and trying to help some of the entrepreneurs in our audience shore up their business practices means a lot to us. So thank you again. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your business.
My name is Sandi Mcgee. I'm from Alabama. I have a gymnastics school named Geronimo Gymnastics, LLC. And I have an apparel business that actually started before that. I was a former gymnast. Famous last words, I said I'd never own a gym. Really just thought I was going to coach gymnastics through college. And my degree is a BFA in sculpture with a concentration in like metal welding. So it's totally opposite from what I'm doing, which is probably most of America at this
Sure.
point. But I worked for someone else for 17 years. And sometimes opportunities just provide themselves. And it kind of happened, and I decided to try it. And that's kind of where I started. I really hadn't had this idea that I wanted to own a gymnastics school at all. In fact, it had been quite the opposite. I had thought, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I definitely don't want to do that. So, but here I am, and I'm so thankful for it. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where never say never and be open to opportunities, because sometimes what presents itself is what is a direction that you need to look into, you know.
So tell me a story. How did you get here? How did you arrive at owning a gymnastics gym?
Well, after working for someone for 17 years, and her business was very successful, but she had gone through some troubles with some employees, which can happen to anybody. Bless you. I know you're
Thank you.
coughing like I am. And I saw a need in our community that wasn't being met. I had taught preschool for many years, gymnastics. I loved that side of it, even though I was a competitive gymnast. I loved the immediate gratification of working with those young children. And basically, I needed to do something in North Alabama. It's not easy to make money as an artist. And a lot of the things I wanted to do in my art field were very specialized, more museum type work stuff. And so I thought, you know what, I'll do this to connect the dots. You know, I'll do this, and then I'll end up, getting along for a little bit of time, and then I'll just kind of dive into my art full time. And I decided I would try it. And so I went in with a friend at the time to rent a place. He was going to do one type of instruction, and I was going to do another. And I just started out. I was lucky enough to have a father that didn't tell me what I wanted to hear, and was hard on me in all the right ways. A brother that was very successful in business, and then also had loving comments of, "Hey, you gotta think this through. You don't want to, even I don't care how small it is, what you're going to do. You need to kind of have a plan in place, because if you don't have a plan, you're going to plan to fail." And so I asked my father if I could borrow some money, and he said, "Yeah, but no. I think this is where it's time for you to kind of write that business plan and go and borrow that money yourself." So obviously, when you're borrowing money and you're going to be paying it back, you're thinking it through quite a bit, because you don't want to be putting yourself in a position where you're borrowing something you can't pay back. And so I thought, what is the least amount of money I can borrow and start with the least amount of risk? Because honestly, as confident as I was with my teaching abilities, I didn't know how all this other was going to work out. So Presented a business plan to my father as if he was a banker. Didn't go well. It shot holes in all of the things that I was going to say and do. And he reminded me, you're talking a lot about emotion, and bankers are going to want facts. And so if I could anything, I would say to find somebody that, if you don't have that father, if you see somebody successful in business, I've found that many times business owners are really willing to kind of help you along and kind of give you, hopefully, some tidbits of information that will keep you from having such a hard road on your beginnings of your entrepreneurship. So my parents, my mother included, my father and my brother, both all together, really supported me in the way that allowed me to be where I am today, because they didn't handicap me. They made me work for it. I think that it was by starting conservatively and being very frugal. And just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can afford a piece of equipment doesn't mean that you should buy it at that moment. And I really learned early on the separation between emotional decisions and business decisions. I wanted to create this grand atmosphere for my children in the gym, but I wasn't thinking about how financially I was going to make that happen. I just wanted to make it look good, but I can't afford all that right in the beginning. So I think it was just early on, what really kind of set me in a good direction was having to look at myself real hard at even the basic steps. And I also had the t-shirt business 2 years prior, and I'd made some pretty bad mistakes and lost some pretty good bit of money. In the beginning, I think I lost about $50,000 before I could kind of gain it all back up. And it was learning that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I was giving everybody all of these options of designs on too many options of shirts, and no one could make a decision. And I was trying to be everything I could instead of honing in on what I did best and what set me apart from everyone else. So when I started looking at my gymnastics side, I really had to kind of focus, what can I bring to the table that someone next to me can't? And how can I capitalize on that? Because you can't be everything to everybody, but you can be the best version of what you have to offer. And you'll continue working on that. I'm still 17 years in, and I've got a long laundry list of things that I want to improve on.
Sure.
That was long-winded, so I don't know if that was answering the question.
No, it definitely does. And so did you end up borrowing money to start? Is that kind of where it ended up for you?
I did.
You revised your business plan and put together a better pitch?
I did. I borrowed $20,000. I had learned to a square inch how many pieces of mat and what order and what configuration could fit in a Tahoe, a Isuzu Tahoe, and not Isuzu Tahoe, but a GMC Tahoe. And I hit the road, started doing mobiles, started to find places that I could do it where I wasn't actually having to pay rent at the time. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I started, paid off that $20,000 before I ever moved on to anything else. And it was a small start, but I was reminded many times over by my father that you need to continue. It's staying steady. It's, not trying to rush into something and not trying to grow faster than you should. And letting that kind of happen organically. And that's kind of where we are today. I started out with, under 12 children, and we're at about 800 today.
That was what I was going to ask next is, what is it like going out and acquiring those first sets of clients?
It was before Instagram, before I could join Facebook and use social media, which has been obviously very good for anybody's business. But I made flyers and I took them to car lots that would let me put them on the windshields. And I would, I hit doors. I went to businesses. I just started networking. Luckily, I was locally known for what I did as far as working at the other gym. And I had lived there and had gone to college in the same town I grew up in. So that was definitely wonderful. But the first mistake I ever made was I made all these great cards, but I didn't put a phone number. So I didn't even realize it until I made the cards. So I think I even handed them out the first day, and then I had to go back in and write in on like 2,000 cards, like my phone number. But those are simple mistakes that are big mistakes that I couldn't afford to reprint those. So I just had to make the best of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so you started out kind of mobily, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you were getting together everyone in one place, or was it privates, one-on-one? What did it look like for you?
I had there was a dance school that graciously allowed me to come in and teach one day a week, and then there were mobile programs at churches that would allow you to come in. Just kind of little niches I would find that people wanted something, maybe a daycare, something like that. But it was really just to kind of get in there and get people kind of knowing. I knew that my next step was I want to find somewhere solid to be, because the wear and tear on the equipment, my body, it would just simplify things if I could get to a location. When I did finally was able to kind of get a joint location with someone else, I still had 2 other satellites in 2 other towns that are close by. I'm luckily live in a place that's like 4 cities right together, and then 20, 30 minutes down the road, there's another city. So I was able to kind of spread out and kind of keep this triangle of classes going on. And so usually I was able to find a place that was pretty suitable for a good number of people. And so I grew those 3 locations. The rent was very minimal. So again, I was keeping it pretty cost effective, but I was able to grow my base even more than just those mobile programs. And the mobile programs became the carrying equipment from each location.
Sure, yeah.
And then eventually I had equipment in each location. So it was very slow growth. But one day I realized that one of the locations was costing me money when I really looked into, how many students and didn't make an emotional decision, but made a financial decision. And when I closed that location, I saw the locations that I had left to grow. And that obviously encouraged me over time to solidify going into one location. And that's what I finally did.
So fast forward to me to right now. This 17-year journey has led you to one location, correct? 800 something kids.
Right.
How many instructors? Like what are you managing day to day these days?
So we have on the floor, I'm just sitting here thinking, in and out the door, coaching wise, we might have about 17 people on staff that day. We probably have about close to 30 that are actually on staff, that some can only come in on Saturdays, some work 2 days a week, some work every day of the week, which is preferable. But that's kind of, we have spreadsheets and we keep up with our numbers, and we've really kind of got it down to somewhat of a science now, so that we're delivering the same quality each and every day with the same ratio of students. And so that's kind of where we are. And before I say anything else, I'm in a location I am now. The first location that I became my solo location, as we grew, we had to rent a space. It's the first shopping mall. I think it was the first shopping center in the state of Alabama. So it's an old shopping center. So the only space to open was down the sidewalk. So I would literally have children that would leave one rotation for our teen program and walk down the sidewalk with parents into another building. So even though we were in one location, it was still cumbersome. So now that being in one location completely, it's really kind of helped, of course, on costs, and help us just become a better program, because we're more consistent with everything that we're delivering.
So tell me this, from an entrepreneur perspective, what was that thing that you feel like you really did well that helped you grow your business early on?
There's a couple of things. One is trying to give the same amount of energy to every class and making sure that I wasn't trying to put too many students in a class, that I was delivering a great product at a reasonable price. And so that took a little bit of, I felt like a lot of programs that I was seeing how many kids they could get in the program. And then the quality was being sacrificed, you know. And so I felt like I might be able to bring a good balance if I would pay attention really closely to the product versus the income that we were getting. And so I also felt like that I had enough experience working with children that I really understood that children did learn differently, that we all don't learn the same way. I felt like I had learned to be able to have a good correspondence with parents and help them understand that just because your child doesn't hit this benchmark at this time and another child does, has no bearing on your child's future. Some of them would start panicking, and I felt like I could really communicate and parents would understand that I did have an experience with it. I had seen a lot of children come through and they had confidence in that. So I was lucky that I was in an area that people already kind of knew me. I did find it challenging when I had new students with new teachers that we had hired for them to get the same quality of education that I got. And some of that education only comes with time. But we do try to find a way to make sure that we prepare our staff, but that's always the struggle. That's probably one of my biggest struggles, is making sure that we're bringing in staff and being able to educate them in a way that really truly gives them the best opportunity to do a good job, but also to deliver to our clients the way we want to.
Yeah, no doubt. It makes a lot of sense. The business is kind of two-folded for you, right? It's like, how do we bring how do we do the right things for the kids, right? How do we do a good job? How do we
Right.
teach them the things they need to know so that they can progress in this
Mhm.
super uber competitive sport? The other thing is like the parent side. It's like helping them understand what goes into the cost of those things, helping them understand really what that journey is like of teaching your kid to be a gymnast, and then understanding, is this a hobby or a pastime, or one of those things that you're trying to get those kids into? Is it something where your child is going to competitively continue to pursue those things? Like, what is that
Yeah.
journey like, and how to be able to manage all the expectations of all those different parents? I can only imagine that it's not the easiest thing in the world, right? And then beyond that, especially early on, you're moving around a lot. You're constantly growing. You're adding people, and it's just this whirlwind. So I guess my
Mhm.
next question would be, what in your mind are those obstacles that stick out along the journey that you've kind of been able to overcome?
Well, just what you first said, expectations are huge. What people expect, you go into a restaurant, people expect the food to be good, the atmosphere to be good, and we're all kind of critical when it comes to our money, our food, and our children. And so I'm a business based on children, and I think that the very first thing that I realized is that parents had a misconception of what gymnastics was and what it had to offer. Especially in the Olympic year, this is something that we really fight. We're going into an Olympic year. It is a wonderful time for the growth of a gymnastics school, but it also can be a death sentence if you're not prepared for the influx and not prepared to really kind of educate those people when they come in, because they'll come and leave as quick as they'll leave as quick as they came in. And so one thing that I have found is that parents assume that if their child's not doing well in the first couple of classes, this is just isn't the sport for them. Um, they don't mind if their kids go play little league ball and run the wrong direction, but for some reason there's this stigma of a lot of expectations in gymnastics. 99.9% of the students that ever walk through a gym like mine will never go on to be a competitive gymnast, not even think about being a college gymnast or going further. And gymnastics is so much more than anything on the competitive side. In fact, if you could take all the competitive gymnastics away, gymnastics truly to me, and this is where I feel like I sell gymnastics really well in my area, is that it's movement education at its best. it's what we all need. It's what schools maybe don't deliver like they used to because of many other reasons. But it's where children can learn about how to be confident, how they learn best, how to fall off the beam and get back up and not be embarrassed and go, yeah, well, I made a mistake. I'm gonna get back up and do it again. It's those it's being that comeback kid or being someone that understands that anything worth having is worth working for, and your self-worth isn't wrapped up in sometimes how well you do, but just instead of how much effort and time you put into it. And so I think one of the biggest challenges is keeping that balance of expectations from parents so that they're not spending money at
Sure.
my gym, because I'm not money driven. I've realized that very early on that my father would remind me, and my father wasn't money driven, but he would say, you got to have money to live, and you can't offer a great program if you don't run a good business. And he kept saying, you can't coach, Sandi, and you can't teach and run the business. And for a while, I was really stubborn about that because I loved being on the floor with the children. But I truly think that the turning point for my business, where I really was able to truly offer the best program for the people that we do have at our gym, was when I stepped back and realized that other people could do what I was doing and no one else could make the decisions about money that I could.
Sure.
And the best thing I could do is get out of people's way. And so that's kind of where I try to stay now. I try to stay in a place where I'm looking at all the places we can improve and try to focus on that and give the people that are working at the gym what they need to do their job.
How long were you a gymnast for?
I think I was a competitive gymnast for 12 years. I was not built for the sport of gymnastics. Probably almost 6 foot tall, long legs. I mean, I really wasn't built for the sport, but I loved it. And I got out of the sport what I hope that everybody that comes through my gym gets. And that was confidence to speak in front of people. When I was younger, I would hide. I would stand behind my parents. I remember physically standing behind my parents because I didn't want to have to have that confrontation with someone or talking to them. And just being able to kind of grow in your self-worth and be able to realize that, hey, you know what, it's okay if you're not good at everything. You're going to be good at something. And how you treat others. I mean, being a teammate, understanding what it's like to work with other people. I mean, now as we grow up, we all end up having a job. We all have to work with people. And one of the best ways to have that education is growing up with a team, whether it be on the ball field or in the gym. And for the kids that don't become competitive gymnasts, just learning to get along with your classmates and encouraging your classmates and being right there with them and understanding and having empathy for other people. It's so important for us to make it through this life. If we don't have the understanding that other people are on this journey with us and having a hard time too, we don't get very far.
Well, I'll be honest, something very interesting about what you said is really describing the process that the children that you work with go through and develop by learning gymnastics and failing, right? And failing in
Mm-hmm.
some degree, whether it be grand
Right.
or small, but you experience a lot of failure in sports, in your sport specifically. Um,
Right.
what is so interesting to me is the attitude that you're instilling into these kids is the same it's the same exact thought process as what makes you a good business owner. It's
Yeah.
that confidence, the willingness to figure things out and try it again and deal with failure and be resilient and learn new things. Like, I think it's just amazing. Maybe, I mean, not even gymnastics specifically, but sports or some type of challenge instills wonderful things in your kid very early, right? It teaches them that
Does.
there are ways to be to deal with to deal with failing or losing in a healthy way, right? And
Exactly.
business is that. I don't know that I've ever, I mean, we've done 300 and something of these podcasts, and I don't know that I've ever had someone come on the podcast and tell me they did it all perfect the first time. It's not
Yeah.
easy, it's not an easy thing, or everyone would do it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's very interesting to me, like how close that hits home to you. Kind of
Yeah.
the way that you're trying to deliver this message and this experience to the kids is really because of how you learn gymnastics, and you're passing that along and instilling a lot of those same values in your business. So I think that goes two ways: is to tell people that investing in the mindset of your kids really, really early on with something like gymnastics, some type of competitive sport, some type of hobby they can pour themselves into, whatever that may be, is a super valuable thing, because it transitions itself all the way to being in business for 17 years, and having navigated all these things and still being able to keep your head on straight no matter what you're going through, because of all of the other challenges that you've experienced in life, right? So it's like, it's learned behavior, learning how to be a
Yeah.
business owner, learning how to deal with those challenges, learning how to look forward and not look backwards, and approach life with some conviction that you have a chance to do something really well, is a brilliant thing. You know what I mean? So I commend you for your resilience, and I see where it comes
Thank you.
from.
Well, thank you. Something you were just saying, and it made me think. We're kind of in the world of immediate gratification, and owning a business is not immediate gratification, and learning is not always immediately gratifying.
Oh yeah.
And we're starting to see a struggle in people expecting. I'm seeing college kids graduate that work for me, and they believe if they have a degree that they graduate, and then there's just a job there for them, and they a lot of times have to end up creating that need for somebody to hire them. We're struggling sometimes with even parents and children so used to being able to be on their phone and instantly look up something, or instantly turn in something to their school through email. But at the gym, it's a slower process, and I think that kind of relates to business again too. It was a lot of long days, and it's still a lot of long days, and um, it's still the grind sometimes. But then there's also those times where you sit back and go, wow, it was a lot of little steps, and a lot of days have passed, and it was a slow move forward. But you do look back on it at some point and go, it was all those little steps. I think that's probably the thing that I think on the most, is that um, it was a slow process. And I think that you have to get the children to enjoy the process, because if they don't stay. They have
Yeah.
to enjoy each success. And I think as a business owner, sometimes you just like, I'll drive home. I go, I made it through the day. I made it through the day. I'm having a little party in my car because it was a hard day. But I was just talking to one of our older gymnasts about this. You really can look at things two different ways. And I was so thankful I grew up in a family that didn't allow me to feel sorry for myself. My dad would tell me sometimes when I would complain to him, he would say this often, embarrassingly, he'd have to say this often to me for a while. And he'd say, when you quit feeling sorry for yourself, then come talk to me, because you'll be ready to listen. But until then, it's not worth me really talking to you about it. And so you can list a mile long reasons why you shouldn't or why you can't, but you also can list reasons why there's an opportunity there, and what you can do about it. And I think that if you're going to be successful in anything, you're going to have to coach yourself through it, and you're going to have to really focus on the things you got going for you. Because if you start really looking at the things that can stack against you, you're not going to get there.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. Um, the owner of my company's two daughters are competitive gymnasts. I've
Yeah.
learned a lot from watching their experience, right? Probably
Mm-hmm.
just saying that tells you one is 13. I can't really remember the levels. All her teammates are 15, though. I know that. I believe she's a level 7 gymnast.
Yeah.
Um, and she wins a lot. And she's 13. Um, and she's really, really good. She's going to go have a career in this, but I go and see the traits that my business, the owner of my company and one of my best friends is instilling in his daughters a lot of what he learned in the sales career that he had prior to this business and starting this business and hiring salespeople. Like the things you learn throughout that process, it's just unlike a lot of other sports. It's unlike a lot of other things that you do in your life. You know, gymnastics is a
Yeah.
different thing. And
Is.
I equate it a lot to business. You know, it's truthfully a learning experience. Like, you don't know how to do the things nobody, like, you may have some knack for shooting a ball. Like, I was a basketball player.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at shooting a basketball the first time I ever picked one up, right? And then I learned from there, right? Gymnastics is one of those things where you're going to have to start at square one. No matter how athletic you are, you have to start at square one. You have to learn the little things that make you excel in the sport. And business is no different, right? It's
Yeah.
completely learned behavior, whether you learn it from your parents or those values got instilled in you when you were young, or you learn them when you're 50, or you learn them when you're 60, or you acquire a business after you retire. Like, I've seen all of those stories on the podcast, and the audience has
Yeah.
been along on those adventures with me. But one of the coolest things about this podcast to me, and one of the things that we really talk about a lot, is that the people that own businesses are normal people, right? They go through normal stuff. Your household gets the flu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
you deal with all of these different things, and a lot of the barrier that separates those people from other people is their willingness to persist through turbulence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you're a really good example of that.
Thank
Being very upfront and forward that it's not easy and that you have to learn, and that you need somebody to tell you to sharpen your game every now and then. Like, I appreciate
Yeah.
that message a lot. Tell me this: if people want to buy something from you, or people want to enroll their kids, or this goes out locally and people are interested in the gymnastics world themselves, how do they find you?
They can go to geronimogymnastics.com. There they can send us a message through our website. That's probably the best way to find us. We're on Instagram as well. Facebook, all the social platforms. But really, that's the best way to reach out to us. We'll reach back out, and I guess if someone hears this podcast and they're trying to think about starting a business, I would just really always suggest that you constantly look for people that are doing what you want to do, or doing something well that you need to learn how to do well, and just reach out to them, because I'm doing that later today. I've got somebody in mind that I know is doing something the way I want to do it, and I'm going to go learn from them and try to put that into my business. So that's why I'm hoping somebody will learn from something that I've done somewhere, some small step along the way.
Sure. And we're the exact same. I mean, my organization is here to help solve problems for businesses, right?
Yeah.
We try to provide value well beyond our service. We
Yeah.
sell a thing, and that thing is probably 50% of the conversations that we have, and the other 50% are literally every other problem that you can imagine in the small business world, and trying to find some way to help those people through those things. So
Yeah.
find that person for yourself, be that person for somebody else. But at the end of the day, it's like something that you said early in the podcast. People, their tendency is to help other people, right? Especially people that are going through
Yeah.
those similar challenges. It's a very normal thing to extend yourself and extend your hospitality, especially in the South, right?
Yeah.
I've been through this. Don't go do the same things. I can help you learn through those
Yeah.
things. And I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't have the relationship with a lot of my clients. I don't have the relationship with a lot of my friends to tell people, when you quit feeling sorry for yourself, come talk to me. So you're very
Yeah.
blessed to have that relationship with
Absolutely.
someone with that much business acumen. And I encourage people to find that same thing. Like, just develop that relationship with people, lean on people that are around you for help, because people will help. They're super willing to. Thank you for coming on the podcast and delivering your message. Like I said, it does mean a lot. I
Thank you.
just relate to people that learned a lot of these things through agonizing over sports,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I've been there. I invested a lot of time and energy and found a lot of my value and self-worth wrapped up into how well I did my one thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's transitioned over to business, and it's learned behavior. It's not easy, but people are here to help you. People like myself, people like you. Thank you for very
Yeah.
much for kind of coming in and being a part of the Burden the Ship family. But if you have anything to leave the people with, please, the floor is yours. Feel free to let people know whatever you want. But that's all I have. I really do appreciate you coming. I think we kind of hit the nail on the head as far as what we were looking for in the podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'd like to leave one passing phrase as surround yourself with people that are have your best interest at heart, but also challenge you daily. That don't tell you what you want to hear, but tell you what they believe truly that would make you better than what you are now. And I've got someone that's been working with me for years, Angela, that's an office manager. She didn't have to do this job. She does it because she's just cares about the business just like I do. So I'm very thankful for having those kind of people around. Those
Yeah,
are the kind of people you
we'll
need to
have to
surround
clip
yourself
that
with.
out so you can send it to her and let her know
Yeah.
you gave her the virtual pat on the back. I know it means a lot to the people that make the
Yeah,
world go around for you in your business as well.
absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely. Thank
Well,
you so
thank you. I
much.
appreciate you coming. Yeah, I'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Bye.